Have you ever felt like you're in the middle of a raging storm? Not a literal one with wind and rain, but a storm in your life. Maybe it's a storm of anxiety, fear about the future, a difficult relationship, or a health crisis. The winds are howling, the waves are crashing over you, and it feels like your little boat is about to sink. You're bailing out water as fast as you can, just trying to stay afloat. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And today, we're going to look at a story about a very real storm, with very real disciples who were just as terrified as we can be. It's a powerful account found in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4. The day had been long and busy. Jesus had been teaching the crowds by the Sea of Galilee, sharing parables and wisdom. As evening approached, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." So they left the crowd, got into a boat, and set out across the water. Jesus, completely exhausted from the day's ministry, found a cushion in the stern and fell fast asleep. Now, the Sea of Galilee is known for its sudden, violent storms. It sits in a basin surrounded by hills, and cool air can rush down the slopes and clash with the warm, moist air over the water, creating fierce squalls out of nowhere. And that's exactly what happened. A furious storm came up. The Greek word used here is megas, meaning great or violent. This wasn't just a little bit of wind and rain. It was a life-threatening tempest. The waves were so high they were breaking over the boat, and it began to fill with water. Imagine the scene. These were experienced fishermen, men who knew this sea like the back of their hands. Peter, Andrew, James, and John had spent their lives on these waters. If they were scared, you know it was serious. They were probably shouting at each other, trying to manage the sail, grabbing buckets to bail out the water, fighting for their lives. The chaos, the noise of the wind, the crashing waves, the boat groaning under the strain, it must have been terrifying. And in the middle of all this chaos, where was Jesus? It was asleep. Fast asleep. The disciples, in a state of sheer panic, go to him and wake him up. And listen to what they say. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Let's pause on that question for a moment. Don't you care? Isn't that the very question we ask when we're in the middle of our own storms? We're praying, we're struggling, we're doing everything we can, and it feels like heaven is silent. We look at our situation and think, "God, where are you? Don't you see this? Don't you care that I'm about to go under?" It's a cry from a place of desperation and fear. Their question wasn't just about the physical danger. It was a question about his character. Does he really love them? Does he care about their suffering? It's so human, isn't it? When things are out of control, our first instinct is often to question God's goodness or his presence. We feel abandoned. The disciples saw the storm. They saw the water filling the boat, and they concluded that Jesus must not care because he wasn't doing anything about it. Their fear clouded their perception of who was in the boat with them. So, what does Jesus do? He gets up. He doesn't panic. He doesn't start bailing water. He does something utterly astonishing. He rebukes the wind and says to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Imagine that he speaks to the storm, not to the disciples, but to the very elements of nature that are threatening to destroy them. And what happens next is just as incredible. The wind died down, and it was completely calm. The Greek here implies a sudden, profound tranquility. One moment, a raging tempest, the next, perfect stillness. The chaos was silenced by a single command. Then, Jesus turns to his disciples. He doesn't say, "Wow, that was a close one." He asks them two piercing questions. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? He addresses their fear first. Why are you so afraid? He's essentially asking, with me in the boat, what did you have to be afraid of? He points them back to the root of their panic, their lack of faith. They had seen him perform miracles, heal the sick, and teach with divine authority. But when the storm hit, they forgot who was with them. They focused on the size of the waves instead of the size of their Savior. Their fear was a natural human reaction, but Jesus was calling them to a supernatural response. He was teaching them that faith isn't the absence of storms. It's the presence of peace in the middle of them. Faith is trusting that the one who is with you is greater than anything that is against you. The disciples' reaction to the calm is almost as telling as their reaction to the storm. The Bible says they were terrified. Wait a minute. They were terrified during the storm, and now they're terrified in the calm. Yes, but it's a different kind of terror. It's awe. It's holy fear. They ask each other, "Who is this?" Even the wind and the waves obey him. In that moment, their understanding of Jesus shifted dramatically. He wasn't just a great teacher or a miracle worker. He was someone who had authority over creation itself. The storm they feared was powerful, but the man in their boat was infinitely more powerful. They had been afraid of drowning, but now they were in awe of the divine power they had just witnessed. They realized the biggest thing in the boat wasn't the storm, it was Jesus. So, what does this 2,000-year-old story have to do with you and me today, in the middle of our own personal storms? Everything. First, it reminds us that storms are a part of life. Following Jesus doesn't grant us immunity from hardship. The disciples were in the boat because they were obeying Jesus. He literally said, "Let us go to the other side." They were right in the center of God's will, and a storm hit. Sometimes, our biggest challenges come when we are trying our best to follow God's path. So, don't be discouraged if you're facing a storm. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong or that God has abandoned you. Second, it's okay to be afraid and to cry out to God. The disciples were honest about their fear. They went to Jesus, even in their panic, and told him exactly how they felt. "Don't you care?" It might not have been the most faith-filled prayer, but it was an honest one. And Jesus responded to it. God can handle our doubts, our fears, and our frustrations. The important thing is to turn to him, not away from him, when the storm hits. Bring your honest, messy feelings to the one person who can actually do something about them. Third, and this is the core of it all, Jesus is in your boat. When the storms of anxiety, grief, uncertainty, or conflict are raging, it's so easy to feel like you are all alone. But the promise of this story is that he is with you. He might seem silent. He might seem like he's asleep, but his presence is your security. Our peace doesn't come from the absence of problems. It comes from the presence of the Prince of Peace. We might be looking at the waves and screaming, "We're sinking," while Jesus is simply inviting us to trust him. The key is to shift our focus. The disciples focused on the wind and the waves, and they were filled with fear. When they finally turned their focus to Jesus, they witnessed his power. When you're in a storm, where is your focus? Are you obsessing over the size of the problem? Replaying your worries? Imagining the worst-case scenario? Or are you turning your attention to the one who has power over every storm? Speaking peace to our own hearts is a practice of faith. It's looking at the chaos and declaring, "God is with me. He is in control. I will not be overwhelmed." It is rebuking the winds of anxiety and the waves of fear in your own soul by the authority of Jesus who lives in you. When Jesus said, "Quiet, be still," to the sea, he can speak that same peace into your heart. The ultimate question Jesus asks his disciples, and us, is, do you still have no faith? It's a call to grow. They went from being terrified of the storm to being in awe of the Savior. The storm became an opportunity for their faith to deepen, for them to understand Jesus on a whole new level. Your storm can do the same for you. It can be the very thing that drives you to a deeper, more profound trust in God, revealing his power and his presence in a way you've never experienced before. So, what storm are you facing today? Whatever it is, remember this: the creator of the wind and the waves is in the boat with you. He may seem quiet, but he is not absent. He is not your storm is not bigger than your God. Turn to him, cry out to him, and then listen for his voice speaking over the chaos in your life, saying, "Quiet, be still." Trust him. He can calm the storm around you, and more importantly, he can calm the storm within you. Thanks so much for watching today. If this story encouraged you, please share it with someone who might be going through a storm of their own. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that helps us find faith and peace in our everyday lives. See you next time.